Hey guys, I'm Christopher. This is Zach. We are Dreamy V and in the middle of a project. It's really not that bad when you look at it from high above.
We got started on these brakes last time, but we don't know if we're going to be able to use any of that footage. It was raining cats and dogs.
If you want to support us and help us get into a shop that doesn't leak, the best thing you can do at this moment is by hitting the thumbs up button or leaving a comment.
So we're here again, second day. Midway through the process, the van is tore up. We got parts all over the place. And what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to install a big brake kit.
Most of you probably know we ordered this kit a million years ago and didn't get to put it on because it didn't come in, yada yada yada. It's here, we're putting it on.
So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some specifics about the Vanagon itself, why we would go with this kit, and show you some machining work necessary in order to use early model spindles with late model brakes.
Alright.
So if you're a Vanagon guy and want to do this, this might be for you. If you're an electric conversion kind of guy, maybe not so much. But you know, we're here for the next few minutes, so hang out with us. Maybe crack open a cold one.
Sure.
I was thinking about it, it's like, who really wants to know about brakes? Well, if you have a Vanagon, you might want to know about brakes.
Yeah, like especially if you're doing one of those like Subaru swaps, you're definitely going to need some bigger brakes. Actually, if you do anything to increase the horsepower, you're probably going to need some bigger brakes.
Yeah. Alright, so we got some parts on the table. We're going to clean up some. While we do that, let's jump into the shop and do some machining, I think. Okay, so we're back in my dad's shop using his tools again. This time on the mill. We're going to finish up the brake job that Zach started a dozen episodes ago, probably.
Episode 38, Machine Shop Field Trip.
Machine Shop Field Trip. Last time we didn't have all the parts and we didn't know exactly what needed to be done, and actually the brake kit got delayed. So now we're finishing the job proper with the spindles that will go on the van this time. The current setup right now is stock brakes, and it's, you know, not so bad, but bigger brakes are better, right? So I don't remember how much we showed you in 38, but this time we'll show you maybe a couple more steps in detail since we have a little bit more time in the shop to work. Here we go. Okay, we have our spindle in a vise, supported by a little screw jack and clamped down with these hold downs. I guess toe clamps is what they're called? Yeah. First thing we got to do before we start any machining is make sure that it's exactly where we want it to be, because if it's crooked in any way, shape, or form, we're going to get a crooked cut, and that's not ideal. Using this dial indicator, what we can do is we can move forward and backwards and watch the movements. And if you follow this guy as he goes around the back, tricky here. If you follow this as he goes around the back, you can see that we're still on the same plane as we go side to side here. This guy's all set up, ready to cut. What we're going to do is we're going to start by facing this surface here to the correct dimensions, and then we're going to ream it. We're going to drill it and ream it. First thing we're going to do is take off this top surface here and make it flat. That's where our brake caliper bracket's going to mount to. So spray it with some lubricant, turn it on.
Man, that's not much of a cut. You can go faster than that.
We have these surfaces flattened. This one turned out amazingly well because it was power fed. This one turned out pretty well, it was hand done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to enlarge these holes, but we got to find the center. This is a coaxial indicator. What it's going to do is as the spindle rotates, this little hummingbird nose is going to rotate as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to move one axis at a time in order to reduce the wobble. If the wobble reduces and then starts to increase, that means we've overshot our dimension, and we'll work on the other one next. Kind of back and forth between the X and Y until we get it really dialed into 0 is what we're aiming for. Speed on the mill needs to be real low, and we're gonna hold it by hand. It's probably a tool. So let's see if we can get it. Okay, that's increasing, so we'll go the other way. Okay, now it's decreasing. Still kind of decreasing. There you go, we're getting close. I think I overshot it just then. So now we're back to the other one. It's increasing. And I overshot it. Okay. It's too much. Let's go the other way. And that feels pretty good, I think. So we're going to turn it off, lock the X and the Y, and then enlarge these holes. Raise everything up again. Spray some lube. Turn it on. Sound right? Clean off some of that gunk. And the last operation we're going to do is this reamer. He needs to go way down for that. Okay, we're going to raise the knee again. Up and down, up and down. Name of the game. Time to ream. Spray. This one's noisy. Lower the knee and take it out. Now we're going to move to the next one, do the exact same thing again. I want to get all of the boxes in the garbage. I want to get all of the parts on the table. Where are we going to stick the old brakes? Well, we got boxes. Can we stick them in these boxes?
So quite a long time ago, when we thought we were going to get to do this kit, golly, what was that, 2 months ago?
ago.
Oh my gosh, it was so long ago. We thought we were gonna get to do this. We made this tool for pressing in ball joints on these spindles because it's a bear. We went to go do that the other day and it just flexed and it was a nightmare. Wasn't working out.
Phoebe makes their lower ball joints in different factories around the world, and the Turkey made ones have a different kind of diameter, and that tool we made, it just slips over. It's too large.
So we got this, which is specifically made for this one application specialty tool from Snap-on. It's just a big U-shaped chunk of steel.
So if you're curious, this is a Volkswagen specialty tool, part of their tool arrangement thing with Snap-on, part number 3051. That's us. It'll be at your doorstep in 2 days if you need it, and it'll cost you $89 plus tax.
Yep. But hey, if you need the tool, you need the tool. What you gonna do?
Go to a Volkswagen dealer maybe.
I don't know.
Alright, the bench is more cleaned up. That was a goal that I've always had in my life. Let's see some spindles. I have in front of me a spindle that was on our Vanagon. This is for what I understand to be a early model spindle. And the one way you can tell that it's early model is how this brake caliper is mounted. It is mounted on the inside face of the spindle itself, kind of like this. Hopefully you can see that, with a bolt going through and threads on the spindle itself. And it mounts just like that here. I believe most early model spindles also had manual steering, so it has a hole a little bit further out than the power steering version. I think the power steering would be about 3/4 of an inch in. When they went from the early to the late, they made some changes. Most notably being how they mount the brake caliper itself. Over here I have another early model spindle that's been machined to accept the late model calipers and the late model parts. What that involves doing is machining it flat here and boring out this hole to accept bolts. Because now the bolts don't mount directly to the spindle, they go through and they mount a carrier, kind of like that. That's how they did it, and they changed it from year to year. If you're mismatching parts, you want to make sure that you have the correct bearing for the application you have. There are two bearings, one with a larger diameter inner race and one with a smaller diameter inner race. Important to note, they increased the diameter of this bearing surface here from 19 to 22 millimeters. They did not increase the outer bearing diameter. Take a measurement and be sure to order the correct one. My previous assumption was that the early models came with a smaller inner race and the late models came with a larger inner race, but measuring the spindle at hand, that doesn't seem to be the case. Because this, to all intents and purposes, is an early model spindle with a 22 millimeter race. More differences between what we had and what we're going to put on. What I have here is a stock Volkswagen Vanagon front brake disc. If you'll notice, it's quite tall. It has a couple features built into it. It has threads for the wheel bolts, and it has the bearings built directly into it. This works, there's nothing wrong with it, and if you're short on cash, you just rebuild it the way it is and it'll be fine. You will have to repack bearings, so you win some, you lose some. This is what we're going to over here. This is a carrier for our brake disc, and our brake disc sits on top of it. still has all the same components, a way to mount your wheels, a place for the bearings, but when you go to rebuild it, you don't have to repack your bearings. This was the primary reason why I wanted to go with it from the get-go. So now that we have all the parts and we're ready to install it, that's what we're doing. One thing you'll notice is that instead of wheel bolts, we have wheel studs. There's nothing better or worse about that, it's just different.
Depends on who you ask. Some people hate wheel bolts.
Well, while Zach's over there pressing races and packing bearings, I'm going to start assembly on these spindles. I heard somebody joke the other day that nobody actually torques these to spec. Well, I got the tools and I got the book telling me what it needs to be set to, so I'm going to torque it to spec. This lower ball joint's supposed to be set to 110 Newton meters, which is 80 foot-pounds. And we go until we hear a couple clicks. After that, always a paint pen. Why a paint pen? Because that tells me that I've torqued it. I hate to wake up in the middle of the night and think, did I torque that lower ball joint? Well, if you got a paint pen on it, you know. $110 Newton meters on this bad boy as well. Okay. And then my magic pink paint marker. I'm going with pink. One, because it's an amazing color. And two, because it's already got yellow marks on it. I want the pink to stand out as different. Alright, these top guys, 60 Newton meters, which is 44 foot-pounds. I got a marking for 45, so we're going to go to 45. For this guy right here, the steering shaft, the Bentley manual calls for 30 foot-pounds. And to advance to the next cotter pin hole and then send it through. But we don't have a castle nut, we don't have a cotter pin, so we're going to go to 45 and, you know, hope that's good. Alright, this brake caliper carrier gets torqued to 160 Newton meters, or 116 foot-pounds is about what it converts to. Paint pen might be my favorite thing in the world. It just might be. Getting towards the end of the things I can do without Zach being done. And it's time for a dust shield. One thing I didn't mention up to this point was that every bolt, unless it's a lock nut, every fitting gets anti-seize. Because that's the last thing you want, is to deal with this in a number of years' time and kick yourself for making it more difficult. But anti-seize does the trick. In case you were wondering, these do not have torque ratings in the book. They're supposed to be Phillips head, so as tight as you can tight with a Phillips, I'm imagining is good enough. So do you have like a personal technique that you like to go for when you're packing these bearings, Zach?
Oh yeah, you just bite off a little bit, press it into the palm. Little bite, press it into the palm. When it squeezes out the top like a booger, just a little rotate and then just
like that?
And there you go, and then just a little rotate. There we go. A little bit of a rotation there.
And now it's time to install. Oh yeah, there you go. This keyed washer right here is important for the setup. And it also tells us how tight we need to make this peening nut. What would you call this nut, Zach?
Yeah, it's a peening nut.
Peening nut, yeah. You want to tighten this top peening nut until the point where the washer underneath can just barely wiggle around. You got a thing?
I got a thing. I got a little thing.
So you get it on. If you can manipulate this as a screwdriver still, then it's within the range of the right tightness. If you can't, it's too tight.
There's more than one place to peen this, so I'm going to do it in both places.
Yeah, and don't be shy about the peening either. Once you get this to the point where you can just barely wiggle it, you want to leave this where it is and then peen this down, and then you're ready to go. And that's basically it. Alright, we are rounding the corner on the work that needs to be done. And this is about it in its full glory. Pro tip if you're following along at home, don't put the carrier on before the rotor goes on. That's not going to work. You're just going to have to torque it all a second time. And then you look kind of silly when you present your YouTube channel. Once this is all said and done, we can bleed the brakes and call it a day. Well, Zach, another episode in the bag. We did it, buddy. You and me. Dream team.
Way to go, pal.
Pow. Yeah, so if you made it this far, thanks for watching. We wanted to capture some of the important steps for this job specifically because when I went searching for information, I had a hard time finding what needed to be done.
Yeah, on that note, if you didn't get any of your questions answered by this video, shoot us a question in the comments. We'd be glad to help you out. Not everybody should have to struggle with figuring it all out.
Installation, though, that's a fair game. You should struggle. It builds character.
Yeah. I'm all charactered out.
Charactered out.
Well, till next time,
Till next time.
be good people.